All right, hello everyone. Thank you for waiting. Apologies, there were a few technical issues in the build-up to this, but we are ready to go. Obviously, not streamed in a little while, so the gremlins have made their way somewhere into the system since our last stream. But yeah, we are ready to kick this one off. So this is a round 4 match coming from the Caatinga Cacholote Carnage Cup, which is one of the tournaments we have ongoing on the Wingspan Tournaments Discord server. This is coming from round 4, and this is between Dozi and Middlife. And joining me on commentary for game 1 of this best of 3 series, I have got No M. So welcome, No M. How are you doing?
Thanks, Flan. You pronounced the tournament name correctly. I've been wondering that this whole time.
I did my research.
I'm doing well.
Yeah. No,
good.
I was ready. I was ready for this stream. I knew I was going to have to say it, and I didn't want to embarrass myself by absolutely butchering it. So, always do your research, get the name right. I've been caught out by that many a time before with the real bizarre names that get picked for some of these tournaments, but
these are the things that in being a mod entails. They don't tell you this when you sign up, but you gotta nail every pronunciation.
Yeah, well, you've got to nail the pronunciation, but also you have a responsibility for picking unusual bird names that are difficult to pronounce and make it hard on yourself. So those are like you say, those are the things they don't tell you. But like I said, we have a good match in store for you today. So again, this is coming from round 4 of the knockouts. So one round away from the quarterfinals. Both players have come through some real tough knockout matches to get this far. So should have a good match of Wingspan on display. So as I said, it's a best of 3 series. We're going to have a random invite sent out for this game 1. So Middlife, if you could go ahead and get that one sent out, and we'll get stuck into this game. So best of luck, of course, to both players.
Alrighty, getting into the tray, we have we have some good cheap early birds, and we have a warbler in the tray, which I am a huge fan of.
Yes.
I love the teal playing other bird powers.
Absolutely.
And I mean, looking at these end of rounds too, it's not super egg heavy, so maybe you can get away with not doing a huge egg engine. And I feel like the teal play and other birds really work for that total bird end of round at the end.
Right.
What do you think of this start?
Yeah, it's a very interesting starting hand. I think whenever you see that Imperial Eagle, there's always the question. I mean, this question has come up quite a few times on the server: is do you keep it, or is it too much of an expensive bird that's going to sort of hinder your early game? But for me, I'm certainly of the opinion that there's such strong birds that you kind of have to keep them, and really, especially with these teal playing other bird powers, such a nice option to have that. Just draw cards a few times. And then easily get this bird down. So certainly will be interesting, I think, to see if Middlife does indeed go for that Maltoni's Warbler. They were saying themselves before the game that they've enjoyed the Premier League and some of these other tournaments we've been having to kind of get used to all these new bird powers. So we'll see if they've adjusted well and kind of understand how to use this. But here we go into the starting hand.
Very fast pick too.
For Dozi, real fast pick. We almost didn't have enough time to talk about it fully, but we can move over to Dozi, and probably not quite as good of a start, but certainly some decent wetlands options. And I think certainly from my experience in the European expansion, kind of getting that early access to card draw is so important. So certainly straightforward pick. I think they're the heron, and then really the food is potentially going to be the problem here.
I really agree. I mean, especially since he's going second, he can maybe assume Middlife would take the warbler, so maybe he's looking at that cockaded woodpecker. It is a forest bird. It's not a brown power, but I think you maybe settle. So he could grab that, maybe keep an extra food to toss away an extra card to toss away too. Play that woodpecker. Get the food for either the Cassins, or I should say the heron, and then start digging.
Yeah,
definitely not the kind of start.
No, No,
not as great as Midlife's.
I think it is always a kind of a key question is like when you're looking for that forest bird, obviously you want that kind of strong brown power, either that's going to get you more food or maybe get you some eggs or some points elsewhere. But, do you kind of settle early for that less than ideal bird, or do you get that wetlands built up and just spend time digging and just really kind of go aggressive on that card draw and see what you can find? I think for me, kind of not keeping that cherry with the foods, kind of to me it looks like what Daisy's going to try and do is potentially grab the worm, get these 2 birds down, lay some eggs, and then just start digging. And I think if they do give themselves a chance to at least look at some cards before committing one way or the other, then that's going to be good for them. And I'm expecting as well, the way Midlife is kind of setting this up, we might be in for a wetlands hummingbird here. So if that does go down, I think if you're Dozy, you can sit back and relax a little bit and think, I'm going to get some free food here. I can focus on the wetlands, get that card draw set up, and worry about the forest later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're really happy if you're Dozy to see that hummingbird come down, given your lack of forest bird. And it kind of rewards that decision of not going for the woodpecker. And interesting to see that the warbler was not picked up by either so far. I mean, some people just don't have a preference for those birds. And those games can kind of backfire when you're kind of stuck with taking all the actions. So interesting to see this. But I do like Midlife start, just throwing, 3 turns in, he's going to have 2 birds in the wetlands. He's going to be able to get food and he can start digging. And maybe he still grabs the warbler at this point. Who knows?
Yeah, I think you make a good point. Like when you're committing early to something like a Multoni's warbler, it does feel very dangerous, particularly if you don't have that kind of strong resource generation. It does always kind of feel like a bit of a risk, kind of going for that play early on. But I'll be interested to see. Particularly, now that both players have got their setups going. Obviously, for Dozy, they've got these strong brown powers down, and for Midlife, they've kind of got these 2 birds down in the wetlands with that song sparrow. This is really, they're both going to have that first chance of do they want to grab it or not. And for Midlife, looks like they're passing it up. So it'll be Dozy's opportunity to see if they want to grab it when they next go for cards.
Exactly. Interesting that they're throwing a Song Sparrow up, so it looks like they're preparing to toss one of these cards away. Maybe to get, I don't know, maybe to get the Merganser down? Not a bad bird to just fill out that wetlands, or maybe the Gray Heron, but it's going to be tricky to find 2 fish. He already has 1, so maybe he's going to grab that extra fish and play the heron. Yeah,
this will be interesting. I think it's kind of an odd situation for a heron play. I think normally you see that as that first wetland bird. Obviously, it's one of those that goes sideways, so you cover over 2 spots, and just getting that down as your first wetland bird. Effectively, you push yourself out into that, second column. You get the extra card draw. So, it does look like it is going to be the Grey Heron is going to be the one to go down.
Yeah.
So this is going to be very interesting, and certainly I think. It can work, with the hummingbird and the heron and then the song sparrow. That's going to be 3 cards a turn that they might potentially be looking at. So, sets up very nicely.
And I wonder if they're going to trap it. Trap the sparrow. It looks like they're kind of setting up for that, which, I think it's unconventional, but I don't hate the idea of, 5 turns in being able to access 3 cards at base in the wetlands. And just go from there.
I think it would be a bit of a risk. I think particularly, I look at this end of round goal with the eggs in the grasslands. I think you kind of want to be looking to set yourself up so that you can end your round with that sparrow in the grasslands. So, I think for me, I probably would have looked to move the sparrow into the grasslands, play the heron, and then lay eggs. And then you get the extra eggs, you move the sparrow down, and then you're going to draw cards. But, maybe they're not convinced by the Grey Heron, and it was just, I'll grab the fish in anticipation of perhaps getting some other kind of wetland bird down. But for Dozy, they have kind of belatedly gone for this red cockaded woodpecker, but the vulture as well. I think that's a pretty good pickup. I think whenever you're kind of short on food like this, getting those cheap birds that don't cost any food, to get those down in your forest, very, very nice early on.
Yeah, I agree. You have that permanent ability to toss a card for an extra food. And now we see Midlife has grabbed the hawk, maybe thinking about this warbler. Okay, the nuthatch. Maybe not quite what you're looking for.
No, especially with
But
this bird feeder.
playable. It's just there's no weeds.
Yeah, that's the main problem. The lack of seeds in that bird feeder, and you need 2 of them to play this Caatinga nuthatch. So, yeah, a bit of a tricky one. I think this is maybe where they're trying to think, okay, how do I see this playing out for the rest of this round? If I'm going to make sure that I end with this song sparrow in the grasslands, am I going to have to lay eggs once more just to try and really cement my position in this end of round? Those are probably the kind of questions going through their head. But yeah, I quite like the hawk here. I think particularly you look at that bird feeder, there's 2 rodents there, pretty easy to grab both of those. I mean, maybe one of them, even with this hummingbird, you could grab that and then get it down. And it's at least something. I mean, it's going to help for a couple of the end of round goals. It just starts some kind of point scoring engine. It can go in any habitat, so for sure would be a good option to consider.
Yeah, and then Dozi will be very pleased to see that with this Black Vulture in hand.
Absolutely, and it is going to be an interesting kind of standoff. I think whenever you have a hunting power and a vulture like that, is one of the players is going to have to play that first if they do both look to play it. And the question is going to be, if Dozi does play this vulture straight away, is that going to put Middlife off playing their predator? And equally, as soon as Middlife, if they are going to play this hawk, if they do get that down, Dozi is going to almost sort of instantly react, I imagine, and look to get that vulture down straight away.
Yeah, I love the game of chicken that these pink powers often bring about, where you don't want to show your hand too soon because you still want to get the benefit from that bird. But there is a lot to say about the kind of like intangible benefit you get from just forcing your opponent to make different decisions or change their game plan.
Yeah.
So I think no matter what, dropping that vulture when Midlife's invested time in grabbing that hawk and grabbing that rat is already impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a good start, good setup that Dozi's got going. Really kind of just sitting on this free food. I imagine they're maybe gonna wait for another worm so they can look to get this woodpecker down. But even without that, I think again just having that vulture down is going to force your opponent to maybe think a little bit more carefully. But again, it's that free, no food cost bird, a couple of points, and just sort of giving you that ability to maybe get a bit of extra food. Really, really nice early in the game.
So I do. Middlife is faced with a decision here, right? Like, do they draw birds, bring down the song sparrow, and just lay eggs to secure this first end of round, or do they? I mean, the problem is playing.
This is very interesting. You don't often see the Imperial Eagle get played so early, and especially they only tucked 2 of the cards, so they're really keen, I think, on this Grey Heron. I wonder if it's going to be a case of draw cards, get the sparrow out of the way, and then play the Grey Heron in its place. That would be a very interesting.
Yep.
Setup, but kind of like we touched on before, just having that extra access to cards, that's going to be very, very nice going into the next round, and should hopefully help draw some nice big point birds or something that can build an engine.
And now we have Hummingbird and Brant coming in for Dozi, which I think 2 pretty solid pickups. I think one of them had Omnivore Expert as their bonus, but I forget whom.
Yeah,
and neither took it.
I think
those are two good birds, though.
Yeah, I think it was Middlife who had the Omnivore Expert, and obviously Ethologist as well is a really good bonus card to keep. Probably the safer pick. I think I consider that. Basically 90% of games you're going to score 4 points from it. I think most of the time you even score 6 pretty easily. So can't blame it. It's certainly a lower risk pick, but like you say, we're already getting quite a few of these omnivore birds coming out, so potentially obviously with that high ceiling could have looked to score more points from it.
And this round has turned out a lot differently than I expected. I do like commentating these games because for me, like I really value something like the Moltoni's Warbler that would have gone instantly, but both of these players just not opting for it and feeling that this other strategy is going to work a bit better, and we're seeing some really interesting play. Like I'm excited to see the Sparrow come down on top of that Heron in round 2 for Middlife and have a really early wetlands engine. But we have a wood duck in the tray, and it's Dozi's turn.
And they've got the. Have they got the food? Oh, they haven't quite got the food.
They could force it down. Oh no!
They're just one short because this bird feeder's just never had any seeds whatsoever. But yeah, that's an
Yeah,
instant grab for sure.
I think so.
Yeah, kind of get that down. And that solves two of their problems at once, because obviously they have this Squacko Heron in the wetlands, but it's got this kind of unusual power of only being able to grab extra birds if they live in the wetlands. And I think all throughout that first round, that just wasn't the case in the tray. So sometimes you do get stuck like that and don't quite, you're not always able to get the activations you need. But yeah, this secures the card supply, but also that food supply as well in the forest. So really, really good pickup there for Dozy.
I also do love Brant with Wood Duck, because often you find with Wood Duck, I mean, Dozy has a lot of extra cards, but often with Wood Duck, you find yourself picking up 2 good cards, having to discard 1. But Brant gives you that flexibility to get a few cards you don't really need that you can toss away, so that Wood Duck, in a sense, acts as a draw 2.
Exactly. Yeah, you kind of, like you say, even if the 3 birds you pick up aren't great, they're the ones that you throw away if you do draw 2 good cards. And certainly, it's only 2 food, gets you a few points. Very, very easy to kind of get that down. But what do we have here? We have a hummingbird. So this is very intriguing, the way this is being played. Hummingbird in the forest, not something you would ordinarily see, and I think particularly with a wood duck as well. So this is going to be a very curious setup, I think, here for Dozy.
I think in a way it does kind of, I mean, they're really trying to fill out that forest spot. They're going to double down on it. They know they're going to need to lay eggs once just to get birds down, so that will satisfy, at least qualifying for this round goal. But the next 2 rounds, they really do not need to invest in any kind of grasslands engine. So maybe they just want to get depth in this forest row at all costs and have some extra food. It's unconventional, but we'll see. I think it could work.
Yeah, I think it is going to work out. I think maybe I could have looked to play that in the grasslands maybe, and then it gets you that extra egg, knowing that they're going to have to lay eggs. Not just for this end of round goal, but in general. When you're running wood duck, eggs are always much welcome. So they could maybe have played the hummingbird in the grasslands, and then when they lay eggs, get that extra food they need. But it's worked out here. They have obviously got the food they need for this wood duck, and I think really they're going to try and just build this up really quickly. And there's a really nice big point spoonbill in the tray that I think they probably got their eyes on here as well.
Man, they are playing lightning fast.
Yeah. This is a quick one.
I love this. It's hard to keep up. It feels like we're commentating Blitz Wingspan.
They're making up for lost time. They clearly took personal offense to the fact that we started a bit late, and they're trying to get us back on schedule. So, this is certainly a case of both players feeling very assured, I think, in their decisions. Sometimes I think we get players, particularly on the streams, where the uncertainty creeps in, maybe a bit of the nerves of playing on stream and the pressure building on that, and they kind of think very carefully and kind of almost overthink some of those decisions. But these 2 players, they're not messing about. They are just getting these birds down, laying those eggs, getting that food super quickly. You do love to see it.
Yeah, like they know what they want to play, when they want to play it, in which order. Yeah, they are not mucking about.
We've
so we have the sparrow in the bottom.
Yeah, I was going to say we've got the sparrow in the wetlands now. I think this is kind of interesting. So it looks like Middlife maybe is going to go for, I'm going to get the name of the bird wrong. I think it's the swift in the grasslands. I think that's probably what they're considering here.
Yeah,
with the worm. So potentially going to look to play that. I did see there was a comment in the chat about the tree sparrow, which I think Middlife has at the end of their hand. One of these kind of interesting pink powers from the expansion. When your opponent takes food, you get a seed from the bird feeder. This is one of those birds I kind of found it quite difficult to really gauge how useful they would be before playing with them. But is it a bird you've had much experience with, and kind of what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think you really do reserve it for these moments where you're sure your opponent is going to be spamming that forest engine.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's kind of easy to deny. We haven't seen many seeds in the feeder yet, so maybe
Yeah.
it'll even out moving forward. And maybe Midlife doesn't want to invest much in the forest row. Like he has that hummingbird, so maybe a tree sparrow would kind of allow him to pursue a non-forest strategy. And if he can get one more brown power in the forest eventually, then it's going to guarantee a 6-point ethologist. So having that one pink power, I think there's some merit to it, but it's gonna really depend on how the bird feeder plays out.
Yeah. I think you make the right point. It's so easy to deny against that because you only can gain a very specific food type if it's in the feeder. And I think especially if you're running a wood duck engine, and I think especially one as Dozi has here with a hummingbird as well, that's going to get even more food. They can afford to maybe take food they don't need just to make sure that the feeder is set up in such a way that the seed isn't going to be able to be taken. But this, I think it could make an interesting play. I think already I'm kind of looking at their grasslands and thinking, right, you've got a no power bird, so if you get a pink power and then the teal power you've already got, you just need that brown power, and suddenly you've got your 8-point ethologist sorted. So that could potentially be a nice play, but.
I like the kinglet there, just
Agreed.
for that last end of round and some more depth in the forest row if you need it. I also just realized that since they both have hummingbirds, that would maybe make me a bit more likely to play that tree sparrow, just because then you really could gamble on not investing in your forest row whatsoever. You have
it definitely,
a bunch of different food sources.
Yeah, it definitely feels like at this point of the game, it's kind of gone on long enough for Midlife where they haven't had to invest and they haven't had to get that strong brown power in the forest that's going to get food. Like you say, we've got 2 hummingbirds in play. We've got plenty of food flying around. I think this is the point where, they've already got the blue-winged warbler in there. I think you're right. You look at birds like the kinglet and kind of maybe other cheap birds. I see they've got the eastern screech owl, or maybe some other big point birds that might come up later in the game. You can use your food, get those down, and really focus on the point scoring rather than building up a resource engine that you're just not really going to need to activate that much.
Yeah, I think Midlife here, I think he has the food. Next turn he could kinglet, tree sparrow, and then with his last turn lay eggs and secure the end of round. And I think he'd be in a decent position to make it into round 3. And I'm just thinking, if he doesn't find a good brown power by end of game, he could toss that song sparrow up top, and then that way guarantee that 6-point ethologist.
That is true. That song sparrow could well be worth a couple of extra points with that ethologist, so that will be definitely very interesting to kind of monitor. But this is kind of tricky, I think, for Dozi at the moment. We've seen they spent quite a few turns gaining food here, obviously using that wood duck to kind of try and draw a couple of cards, but you're only seeing 2 cards a turn, and quite often, if you're not drawing those birds that you want, it can be quite difficult. And I think certainly, Dozi, they've already got, was that like 9 or 10 food in their hand, and not really any amazing birds that they would look to play. So I think this is kind of comes back to a point we made earlier. At what point do you settle for the kind of average birds that you've been given versus continuing to dig and really trying to find those puffins, those whooping cranes, those wood storks that are in the deck somewhere that you want to be using all this food for.
Exactly. And I think I wonder, what do you think about the Junco in the forest for Dozi at this point? He has a lot. I mean, he tossed that Brant, which would maybe make me a little more inclined to use it, but I don't know. At this point, he's really invested. Or I guess you could also just throw it in the grasslands, and then you're at least getting points for that action.
I think that's the
thing.
I think
there's maybe some merit.
Yeah, I think at some point, Dozi is going to need to think a little bit about pivoting, because this forest, as good as it is, like you said, with all this food it's generating, with all these cards that you're drawing, you're not scoring points. There isn't a nuthatch, there isn't a chipping sparrow, there isn't an American robin that's getting you tucks or anything like that. You're purely gaining the cards and the food to play those. At some point, I think they will need to think a little bit about pivoting, and they've got a couple of grassland birds, so that Junco being one. I think it's the Shrike as well, the expansion bird that they might look to play. But again, coming back to their bonus card, Oologist, normally that kind of guaranteed 6 points, but currently they're nowhere near meeting that. So they are going to need to kind of think carefully and and maybe get a bit of a move on if they're going to, get, first of all, enough birds down, but also have enough of a grasslands engine to make it worth actually laying those eggs at the end of the game.
Yeah, I forgot they had that Uologist, actually. That definitely might change your decision if you're Dozy to pivot sooner. And that was quite a good trade for Midlife, picking up that.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Grackle, the Grackle might fit in somewhere. He has a lot of cards, but you love to see that Bellsvirio.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good pickup for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think really, again, for Midlife, they kind of have to kind of think carefully about, what they prioritize. If they've still got that a very nice Spoonbill, they can look to play that. But yeah,
absolutely,
it's all going to be about the turn order, and kind of especially when you have something like this Song Sparrow, you've got to think carefully about when you're going to move it, when you aren't going to move it, where you're going to move it to. Now we've got Common Starling in the tray, and Dozy is not going for it. So this is, I don't know, maybe if they've just not seen it, if they've not clocked it, but we talk about having so much extra food and wanting to turn it into points.
Exactly what you want.
Starling absolutely is exactly what you want. And if you're going to have Bird Counter as well as your bonus card, man, I know they have to be grabbing that if it's still there. But I mean, I think if
maybe that's their gamble.
Yeah, I think if I'm Midlife, I have to take this here. Really, it's because that Starling is just so strong for Dozy in this position.
Yeah. Ooh, we'll have to see. I mean, Midlife did just draw, so maybe they're feeling less inclined, and they moved their Song Sparrow out of there, so maybe they're thinking, I'd be spending an entire turn just for denial purposes.
Yeah, I think they need to think about it. They need to work out what their end game is, right? Because, like you said, they've got this Grackle. They've got to think, okay, how many turns have I got to use this? If I play it now and just tuck or kind of play a bird every turn, do I have enough cards? Am I accounting for the fact that I'm going to need to take cards once more at some point? I think that's what they need to think about. I think you're right. Moving that Song Sparrow, obviously part of their plan is to try and get plenty more food here. I think the Grackle certainly seems to be part of their plan to try and get that down. But yeah, they're going to need to think carefully about, okay, what else? What are my priorities? Am I going to try and build up this strong grasslands and just lay eggs for the rest of the game? Or am I kind of really focused on getting the right food and maybe getting some of these big point birds down? I think that's really the key kind of decision here for Midlife.
Yeah. And if they were willing to do the grassland, then I think it would have been fine to draw cards. Maybe even toss the egg for the extra one. You deny, but also you're going to convert each of those extra cards into 2 points with a Grackle activation. So I don't think it ends up being a waste. No Screech Owl. That happens.
Always the way. Yeah, and it's interesting as well that the Sparrow is staying there. So clearly Midlife maybe not quite happy, maybe not quite got exactly all the food they're looking for. I think probably Grackle and maybe Spoonbill might be the two that they're going to look to play. But certainly I think they're maybe hoping for a bit more food. But there we go. Starling straight away. Dozy, they spotted it. They're able to get that down, and I think that could be the card that maybe drags them back into this here, because that's basically guaranteed 10 tucked cards right at the end of the game. I'm sure they're going to have so much extra food with these hummingbirds and just all this food generation that getting all those tucks shouldn't be a problem at all.
Yeah, that's a 13-point bird minus eggs, and it also will allow Dozy to get some more depth in the grasslands for that late game pivot.
Absolutely.
So and also grabbing the Condor, I like that for that for that final end of round. And you're going to be playing a ton of birds, so bonus cards tend to be more valuable when you have a lot of birds on the board. Getting rid of the Junko, that's interesting. I mean, especially with bird counter, you might have assumed they would have played it. Maybe they're really not looking for that pivot. I mean, they are going to have to egg, right? Like, they're not getting any free eggs from Midlife, so they're going to have to play something in the grasslands and egg soon.
Absolutely, yeah. I think they had, obviously that Junko was one option. They still got this Shrike that maybe they might be looking to play, but yeah, I think absolutely, sooner rather than later, you're going to need to get something down, because I think at this point, even just to meet the oologist, forget scoring points from the grasslands itself, just to meet your bonus card that you should really be meeting, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have to lay eggs at least 3 times. And the turns are starting to run out. So, yeah, I mean, if your priorities are trying to play big point birds or going for food, so you make sure you can feed this starling, you've got to make sure that the engine is there in the grasslands, so at least when you lay eggs, you can get some kind of benefit from it. So, we do see the Shrike go down.
We see the Shrike.
I imagine it's going to be a case of lay eggs. 5. Yeah, they can lay eggs and get the starling down. Obviously they'll need to get it down this round so they can at least make the use of the power.
Exactly. So we see Dozi on 5, brown powers, Middlife on 4. But Middlife kind of out of brown powers, right? The only one. Ooh, what do we see? I'm not sure what bird that is. Third from the left, but
probably not something to be played at this point.
Yeah. So maybe they're willing to forfeit this end of round, and they know they have a lot of good birds they want to play, so maybe they can secure that last one. Because right now we're sitting on a tie, a win for win for Middlife, and this next one's looking like a win for Dozi. So we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, I think this is the right player like this. Or maybe they're changing their mind. I was going to say I think the Bell's Vireo, get that down in your grasslands, and then it kind of seems like the play is going to be get food. I hope you can get the food to get this roseate spoonbill down, and then you can just lay eggs. Once you've moved that song sparrow down into your grasslands, it's a 6-point grasslands, pretty good for an end of game grasslands. To be honest, you just lay the eggs. You've got the extra cards. I think you take that. I don't think you worry too much. I mean, they have got some other good options potentially in their hand that they might like to play, but certainly I think the Bell's Vireo feels like a good play here, and you're just kind of gambling on that bonus card. Hopefully it's something good. I think you take that.
Ooh,
I think you take that.
I think you do. And
3 points is fine.
Who knows? Maybe there's a path to that upper limit. I mean, the flycatcher's not looking amazing, but if it's worth half of that upper limit, so 2 points, maybe it'll work out. Also, I think Middlife might have decided to get that Vireo down immediately to deny this redback Shrike. Just get rid of any worms in the supply.
Good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, for sure. As soon as you see the Shrike in play, obviously that power letting Dozi steal a worm, but as we see here, no worms anymore for Middlife. Yeah, that is a good point. Didn't pick up on that. You want to get rid of those worms as soon as possible and just kind of deny your opponent that opportunity of getting those points. So good heads up play there, I think, for Middlife.
Yeah, agreed. That's even though they're playing at a breakneck speed, just still keeping an eye on each other's boards, evidently.
Still switched on. So going for food here for Middlife, pretty straightforward now. They are going to have to decide again with this worm. Do they take the worm, or do they just take a bunch of random food and just deliberately overpay for this spoonbill? So that's kind of what they're thinking. I'm wondering maybe if that Swift is still going to go down purely because it's cheap, it meets the bonus cards for the Ethologist for an extra couple of points, and maybe when they gain food for that Song Sparrow, move it down, they can have a bunch of extra food that can then get discarded and turned into eggs. So I don't necessarily mind that. That could certainly be an option for them to consider.
Yeah, if you bring that Swift down, if you lay that Swift down, then it's a 7-point play minus the 2 eggs.
Yeah.
For 1 food, you really, you can't ask for more from 1 food.
No.
And it's an extra bird for that.
Exactly.
For that last end of round.
Exactly. It certainly does look like it is going to be quite a competitive final end of round. So, what have we got? Middlife on 9 birds at the moment, I think, and Dozi. Is Dozi also on 9? Dozi's also on 9. So
so we have our 10th.
We're going to have our 10th here in the spoonbill, and then obviously, maybe this Swift is going to go down. Oh, that's a good pull there.
Oh, that really is.
Certainly, Falconer for 4. You definitely take that. So 3 points from the Viticulturist, 4 from the Falconer. Some pretty good
6
pickups
from the
there.
Ethologist.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some good
you are
returns.
very happy from your bonus cards.
Very, very happy. And I think certainly when you compare that to what Dozi's scoring off theirs, obviously Oologist at the moment, not quite meeting, but I think you'd expect, certainly with the way this Grasslands is being built up, they're going to meet that by the end. But even that bird counter, I think they're only just 2 points on that, so it is a little bit on the low end. This certainly could, come into play when we're going into the final scores in terms of making a difference as to who's actually going to win this game.
Yeah, I think Dozi's game is gonna rely heavily on this round 4 tray.
Yeah.
That they get a first crack at, and they're gonna want to pick up food anyway. For that Starling for round 4, so they don't need to worry about going out of their way to pick up from the tray. I think you're happy to be in that position, but yeah, a lot's gonna come down to that, and we're gonna see Middlife. Oof! Wait, they're both looking at the same board. We're gonna see Dozi win this end of round for sure.
Yes. Yeah. So I think Dozi, just by being able to get that strike down, obviously helped a bit with the egg generation, just that extra bird. But obviously, being able to nick an end of round just by a single bird, that's kind of always nice on what you look to do. So did wonder maybe if this Condor was going to go down here. Obviously, it doesn't need the food, and they're going to have plenty of food here to use this Starling. So again, another gamble on this bonus card. You take it. Yeah, I think you take it.
I think you do.
4 points. They're kind of both meeting the sort of threshold. I think anytime you get 3 or 4 points from that late game bonus card, you're very happy with that. So pretty straightforward keep. And again,
I'd like to see all 5. Yeah.
There we go. Get rid of all the food. And like you say, what are we going to get in the round 2 or round 4 tray, I should say? Not anything.
Not great.
Terribly amazing. That's where you're hoping for Benelli's Eagle to appear or something like that. Or big point puffin that you can easily get the fish for. So obviously they will, like you say, naturally go for cards here and kind of gamble on what they can get from the deck. Maybe something good. That could help.
Woodpecker,
for
maybe.
For the end of round, we were talking about these before the game, so maybe this could come into play at the end, and sneak that end of round, be worth a few more points.
Yeah,
could be.
I
be a
do not
play.
dislike that.
No, not at all.
And then, what's the third bonus card? So he has he's got Oologist, he's got Bird Counter, and he's got Forester. Right, okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about the Cormorant for Bird Counter, but that's only 5, and then minus egg is 4. Not really worth it. I think...
No.
I think you just play that Woodpecker, hopefully secure that end around, and then just lay your eggs. But we'll see what Middlife is up to.
Okay, I was going to say I wasn't sure if Middlife had their turn or not, but no, there we go. They are laying eggs. So this is interesting. So it seems like they're not super set on moving the Sparrow. Maybe, I guess maybe because they didn't have the eggs. I think probably the plan, if they are going to play this Swift, maybe they want to do that before moving the Sparrow. But I suppose it doesn't really matter too much as long as they're both going to end there. I don't think that's too big of a deal. So that's interesting. I think probably this Swift is going to go down, I would imagine. So I think maybe they're just trying to be careful not having any worms. Again, sort of being conscious that every worm is going to be worth a point through that red back strike. But that's an interesting play with the Clark's Greave going down there. What do you make of that? Do you think that is just for the end of round goal here?
I think it must be. It's a 4-point play. It doesn't help with any of the other bonuses. Maybe Dozi's done the counting, or maybe they don't want to play that. They don't want to play that Woodpecker. I think it's got to be an end of round play.
Yeah, but it's quite bold to play that now when your opponent still has quite a few turns to assess their own situation and their own capabilities in this end of round goal, because at the moment, what is it? Is it 11 for Dozi and 11 for Middlife? So they're both currently on 11. I think at this point, Middlife's probably not going to play another one. So at this point, you go, well, I could have played that Woodpecker instead, and that would get me up to 12.
Yeah.
And could potentially have made the difference there. So it does seem like they're going to
tie. Or you play the Woodpecker and wait,
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That could have been an option. So, so it seems like I think the ship has sailed for the Woodpecker here. Obviously, every food that Dozi would spend on that, they're giving up a tuck that they could have had from the Starling. So, seems like the late game here, it's just going to be laying eggs for both players, and kind of very comparable engines. Obviously, Middlife having the slight edge, generating 6 eggs to Dozi's 5. But this is so nice, I think, here for Midlife. I always like to see this when you can end the game with no food and no cards, and you've not really, you've not had that extra turn spent gaining cards or food that then go to waste at the end. It always feels very clean, I think, when you can end a game like that.
It does, and it helps fend off any saltiness if you do end up losing. And you're like, you know
Absolutely.
what? I could not have done anything more. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, could not agree more. So,
yeah. So who do you make? Who are you calling this for at this point?
I honestly don't know. This is so tricky. I think my gut feeling, I've not gone through and done any sums. My gut feeling is Midlife. I think the bonus cards have helped for sure. But obviously the end of rounds,
get right into it.
the end of rounds are completely split there, I think. So yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Scores are counting up.
I think Midlife too, but it's tight.
It's close. It's close. And obviously Dozi's going to have plenty of these tuck cards as well to come through the end.
Yeah.
Is it going to be enough? Oh, it's not going to be enough. So there we go. Midlife does indeed take this game 99 to 89. 2 pretty good scores, I think, especially considering the very interesting starts we saw, kind of both players almost being allergic to their forest and not really getting those food generating birds down. But yeah, a very good game and a very entertaining game. Got to see some interesting plays there, and some new European expansion birds, of course, go down as well, which we always like to see. So as I said before,
you'd love to see it.
Yeah, as I said before, this is a game best of 3 series, so Midlife has the advantage here, but this set is far from over. So we have got a couple more games, or at least one more game to come. But before we do that, I believe we might be having a change in the commentary box. So thank you, Noam, for joining me. You can go have a rest now, because that was a very fast-paced, energetic game. You can go have a breather.
Yeah, honestly, that was lightning quick. But no, that was a blast to commentate. Always love a quick game. So thanks, Flan.
Absolutely.
Enjoy the next few. I'll be tuning in, and I think we're heading off to Alex or Zerpov. So take care.
All right. Thank you, Noam. And indeed, Alex, you can make your way over into the commentary booth. How did you find that game one? I saw you, I think, a little bit in the chat maybe, and keeping up with that game. Obviously very lightning fast, as we said.
Yeah, hello everyone. Hello, Flan. Yeah, so the game was really interesting. I looked at the chat, and there were a lot of propositions of going other ways for both players, and I think, like, from the player's action, I would likely have a different approach, whether playing on the Midlives or Dozi board. So it was really interesting, and there is, like, in Wingspan, there are different ways to victory, and if there is no obvious one, you take whatever you can.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you say, there's so many different routes. I think, especially with the new expansion, there's all these additional options, these additional teal powers that can, obviously, as we saw, turn some of the extra food that you have into tuck cards, as we saw with Dozi, and just some really interesting different ways to score and different ways to win. So I'm all for it. I think this really does freshen up the game quite a bit. So I think we're potentially looking to get game 2 started now. So obviously, as I say that, Midlife drops off. So we will just look to get things ready and waiting to get that all going. But as I said, it's a best of 3. We had Midlife went first in that game 1. So obviously that means that Dozi is going to get the pleasure of going first in the game 2. And if we have a deciding game 3, it's going to be based on who has scored the most points over the first 2 games to see who's going to go first. So all right, I think we have both players back and ready, and we have the invite sent over. So let's take a look at what we have. Unless, I think, did Midlife think Midlife might have sent it with them going first, so let me just check on that to make sure that we have the right players. Yeah. I think we are just going to have to get a new invite sent out for that one. Oh no, we are good. We are good. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a known bug.
Yeah, it's one of those where if you don't join before it's, or if you join before the invite's actually sent, then it messes up. All good. All right. So, really good start for Dozo. The yellowthroat and the woodpecker, probably two of the strongest birds in the game that can go, in the wetlands and the forest. So, you secure your card supply, you secure your food supply. Feels like a no-brainer, at least keeping those two birds. I guess the question is, do you keep any of the other three, or do you just keep that extra bit of food and keep your options open?
I think with the yellowthroat, I guess you keep extra food and dig a little for that raven, Yeah, and the end of round goals are a little bit deja vu, right? So like birds in the grassland, and the last one, I believe, turtle birds.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, very, very grasslands heavy, I think, as well. Obviously, the first one, you want birds in your grasslands, and then the next two are really going to encourage that egg leg strategy, getting those right nest types down and making sure you get plenty of eggs. So, yeah, certainly feels like a very kind of vanilla setup, again, with the end of rounds, but also kind of for the starting birds here for Dozy. So, yeah, certainly seems like the birds are straightforward. Maybe the bonus card's a little bit more of a tricky one. Always kind of difficult when you have these two very similar bonus cards that maybe you don't have any birds that actually meet them. Trying to decide which one of those you want to keep is always a tricky decision, I think, at the start.
Yeah, I would go for another one. Just because large bird specialist, you have to play 4 birds at least to match, and for the diet specialist, it's only 2.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I would take like 100%. I would take diet specialist.
Yeah, I agree. I think as well, generally those kind of bigger point birds, like your sort of Atlantic puffin, whooping crane kind of birds, they're going to meet that. You want to play those anyway. So yeah, certainly is the bonus card that I prefer, but large birds is the one they've gone for. And yeah, we've got Midlife starting hand, definitely weaker. I think it's fair to say that not quite the strong brown power birds that you might look to get down. They're kind of maybe looking at Condor and that's it. But I think there are some other birds in there that certainly have potential from this starting hand.
I think the falcon here is really strong. I think falcon is like the point to food cost is really, really nice.
Yep.
And if you can manage the feeder, then you will potentially have extra eggs from drawing cards. So it is nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And, I like the falcon. I think it's a pretty decent start in the wetlands. Like you say, the number of points you get from that food cost is pretty good. And then if you can get some eggs through that hunting power, obviously not the most reliable source, but it is a way of potentially generating some eggs. So I think it can work. But yeah, it looks like maybe they're kind of going for the sort of cheaper birds, lower food costs. I did wonder on this yellowthroat if maybe they were going to, potentially look at keeping that as well. So definitely a curious pick, and again, like these European expansion birds, these teal powers in particular, they definitely open up new options and new ways of scoring points. So I'll be excited to see if that white throat does go down.
Yeah, so like the starting hand for Midlife, it's already different from my starting hand with that setup. So we'll take another approach and see how it goes.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I kind of like Noam said in the first game, I think it is always interesting with these streams, obviously for us, but for the viewers as well. You kind of get that fresh perspective. You get that new approach of, I didn't really think about doing things that way, and let's see how it's going to play out. I think you can quite often get stuck in sort of one mindset of how you approach things, and without that experimentation, without that sort of seeing new ways of playing things, you never really kind of understand how necessarily it's going to work in practice. So this will be interesting. I'm very interested to see how this is going to play out for Midlife, but certainly for Dozy, a lot more straightforward. get the yellow throat down. Potentially look to get the woodpecker down, but I think equally they could just lay eggs and start drawing cards. Maybe they have their eye on that Harrier in the tray. Obviously going to help for a few end of round goals, help for the bonus card, and they've already got the rodent for that. So I think that would make for a pretty sensible pickup. But yeah, other than that, I think like you said at the start, you're just going to start digging and you hope you find that raven or that other strong bird from the deck.
Yeah, but I'm particularly interested in how that white throat will turn out to be. It never works for me, at least. So
yeah,
maybe there is a stream for me to watch and learn how to play it.
Yeah, I've never had a successful game really with the white throat. I've had it where it's kind of worked, sort of where I've played it maybe round 3 or something, and it's made sense because maybe I'm going for a wood duck engine or something that isn't generating a lot of eggs. But I think they have really high potential. I think if you can get them to work and you get them in the right setup, then potentially gaining 4 or 5 eggs at the end of each round, especially in the early game where it can be quite difficult for your tempo to try and get hold of eggs, that can be very powerful. So I think the ceiling is high, but definitely a high skill cap, and I think it's one that, like you say, I'm not particularly familiar with either. So maybe we're all going to get a lesson here in how to successfully use the white throat. I certainly hope we can see it used to some success. Absolutely. But yeah, it looks like, I think Middlife, did they grab the vulture on the previous turn? So that was one again that we saw come up in the previous game for Dozi. So I wonder if maybe they're just going to try and use some of these other cheap birds. They've already got the condor as well. Try and get sort of these down as a way of at least building something up. Maybe get a few extra points or the bonus cards or the food through the vulture. So we'll be interested to see, and obviously they'll try and build something up here and get access to the kind of resources they need.
Yeah, and that vulture was a little bit preemptive to Northern Harrier pickup from their opponent. So I think it's kind of nice play from Middlife. I think it will bring a lot of free food if Dozo decides to attack, and you obviously decide to attack more than you want to skip the brown power.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's always interesting, and we did kind of touch on this point in game 1, when you have these pink powers and these hunting powers in play at the same time, or kind of in players' hands at the same time, because there's almost this kind of who blinks first, right? Who's going to play the bird first, or do you start skipping powers just to make sure you're not giving food away to your opponent in that sense? So kind of quite bold, I think, of Dozi to still grab that Harrier. I mean, I think it still does work in this situation for them. I think they do want to get it down and just kind of accept the fact that maybe you give away a few free food there to your opponent. But some other good pickups, I think, for Dozi from that previous turn. So we've got the Sapsucker and the Honey Buzzard. So maybe they might look to get one of those down as a second forest bird. Do you have a preference of which of those you might look to play in this situation?
Well, I love Honey Buzzard really much. I think it's a really great design of a card, and really interesting power, and it's really powerful when it works your way. And obviously there is some chance. So you can get 0 or you can get 5. Median, I believe, is around 2. So it's still nice, like a little bit less than 2. But it's all right. We can work with that.
Yeah, it does. It does always seem to give you 0 at the worst possible times. right when you think, I just need one worm to get something down. It can be quite a frustrating one. But yeah, I agree. I think it's a really, really fresh power, quite a clever one. Obviously unique in the game. There aren't any others that work like it, so we'll be interested to see if they do indeed go for that. But for Middlife, they did go for the Condor in the Wetlands, and was a pretty good pickup, I think, with the bonus card there, Forester. I think they were already planning on doing this kind of Vireo Black Vulture double play in their forest. Obviously, build up the forest, but also give yourself 2 birds to lay eggs on with the white throat. And you've got 2 birds there that are going to count to your Forester. You've got another one that counts towards Enclosure Builder, so should be a good quick setup here, and hopefully get some food generation going alongside these cards.
Yeah, I think they're struggling with the card draw
Mm.
most for now, midlife. And well, hopefully we can pick up some big birds or maybe some birds that contribute to maybe to White Road or just building something nice. So let's see. Okay, interesting. So they go for the Golden Eye.
I did wonder perhaps if they were going to look at that. Obviously, they've got some cavity nest spaces that potentially are going to be going down here in the Viri and the Vulture and the Owl as well. I was wondering about if it's going to help them meet the Forester. You know, there's always this kind of train of thought of, okay, if my card draw isn't great and I can only get maybe 1 or 2 cards per turn, if there are birds in the tray that work, my kind of view is just grab them while they're there and kind of worry about getting the food to play them later. I think certainly if Midlife is going to look to do this Forest double play, that's going to get them a couple of foods. Potentially this Vulture's going to get some free food as well when the Harrier is going hunting. So I quite like that from Midlife. I think that's good. They can look to kind of obviously get the Goldeneye down as that second wetland bird, help get some more cards, but also if your opponent's going to be laying eggs, you're going to get some free eggs there as well. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good pickup, I think, for Midlife.
Sure. And then Buzzard is on board, so we can count 3
Buzzard
grabs.
is on board. Yeah, we'll have to keep a track. It is always interesting when the Buzzard goes down round 1. And you are sort of counting to yourself, right? How many worms have I got versus how many worms should I have got? You know, is the game screwing with me, or is it being overly generous? It does always seem to be like it's the former rather than the latter. But yeah, pretty good to get that down. The honey buzzard and of course the white throat as well for Midlife. So both players having some interesting round end powers that should hopefully spice up the game a little bit as well. So here we go. Oh no!
Oh wow.
I'm sorry. I just need a moment.
Yeah. A minute of silence.
Rest in peace. But no, that is good. Obviously for Midlife, they can get the extra food. I think they would really have liked to have been able to get some seeds there. Obviously they had the fish, and then a worm they managed to grab. I think really the priority is probably to get this Goldeneye down, but equally the rodent is fine. I think maybe ouch. Never talk when the honey buzzard's rolling because it's never going to work.
Yep, and they kind of show the frustration.
Yeah, there's only so many ways you could show your frustration through a game of Wingspan, and that is certainly one of them. So no good on that round end power, but certainly Midlife will be very happy with theirs as we head into round 2. So not an amazing tray of birds to go for. So I think if I'm Midlife, I'm just going to grab that rodent and that seed, get these 2 birds down, and just start drawing cards. I think that's a pretty good setup to have. You know, you've worked well on your bonus cards. You're going to get yourself another one with the spotted owl, and that golden eye is certainly going to get you some free eggs as well. So yeah, that feels to me like a pretty good way to at least start this second round for Midlife.
Yeah, for Midlife we can also count free eggs from the White Road, right? So
Absolutely.
Maybe try and keep up with the free resources from these steel powers. For now it's 2. I think it's great already because
Yes.
obviously in round 1 we don't have that many birds in each habitat. Yeah. So let's see how many more.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can get 2, like you say, at the end of that first round, that's so nice. It's kind of saved them that turn. They haven't had to lay eggs here. They could already go for the cards, and now they could look to play birds without having to lay eggs first. So really, really nice. Now, it is a bit of a shame they did reveal that fish coat, and yeah, unsurprisingly, I think for Dozi, they are certainly going to jump all over that. And I think that works pretty well. I think for me, Fish Crow and Honey Buzzard, if the Honey Buzzard is actually going to work and get you some free worms between the rounds, that's a pretty nice food source. And obviously, if you get that Fish Crow down in your grasslands when you're laying eggs alongside the Harrier, you're going to get some points as well. So another interesting potential Rule 16 here with the Savvy's Warbler coming up. I do wonder if Midlife is going to really jump all over that. Obviously, like we kind of said, the card source at the moment just isn't really there. But you know, that Savvy's Warbler can get you access to so many more cards potentially. So they are maybe thinking about it a little bit here just to make sure that they weigh up whether it's worth going for or not.
Sure. I think they're already doing the action, but I think Warbler here is not a bad pickup. So like it seems like you are wasting 2 turns by playing like 0 points on the board, right? So like obviously it costs food to play the second. I mean the egg to play the Warbler in the grassland, but then you have like a lot of card draw to potentially look at some better birds because.
Absolutely.
Right now the hand is not looking that great. It's okay, but we can do better.
Yeah. I think it's okay. The Warbler. I think it probably is just about still within the window where I'd consider playing it. Obviously meets the Forester bonus card, so they're still well on course to potentially max that out. And if you can do that and score 8 points, that is a real big return. So I think certainly Midlife they're going to try and get some eggs really through the pink and the teal powers because just really the grasslands isn't there. But I think that's okay. I think when you're in this position and you haven't really got those grassland engine building birds, it is about finding the eggs from elsewhere and knowing obviously that Dozi did grab the fish crow on that previous turn. They're going to see that going down pretty quickly and really being able to preempt that, I think. And make sure that you get those 3 eggs from the golden eye. Really, really smart play. So, this is a very curious setup for Midlife again. Kind of no brown powers yet. Obviously, like I say, I imagine that Warbler is going to go down pretty soon. But they seem to be doing all right here with just these kind of pink and teal powers, and obviously these white power birds as well. I think it's working out okay for them so far.
Yeah, for sure. That's really, really interesting setup. And I guess it's 1 in 100 or maybe in 1,000 games when you don't have like brown birds.
Yeah.
And middle round too. So very interesting.
Yeah. But again, just comes back to this point that we said. There isn't one way to win at Wingspan. There are multiple different routes down to getting that victory. And as we said again, with these teal powers. Alongside some of these pink powers from the base game, just gives you more options for point scoring, for sort of having that passive resource or point generation. Certainly a good kind of way to manage with not having these brown powers is to make sure that you do grab those strong pink and teal powers when you can, and it does feel like Midlife has done that. I think they are maybe kind of a little bit frustrated here. They're kind of were hoping for that free egg, maybe just looking to play that Warbler this turn, and really kind of benefit from that. But I think really you just need to lay eggs here anyway. Kind of suck it up, take the hit, get that Warbler down, and then you can start drawing cards. But maybe not. Maybe they're kind of gambling again, playing that game of chicken once more, waiting for Dozi to lay eggs first before they kind of commit to doing anything.
What's also interesting is that they can commit to a lot of bonus cards, which is also a nice strat.
Yes.
You always happy to see 20-30 points from bonus cards.
Yeah, I think it works. I think it works pretty well. Obviously with bonus cards, there's this kind of inherent risk, right? You never know what you're going to get. Maybe you draw a good bonus card, maybe you draw a bad one. The more of these birds you play, you're kind of spreading out your risk. I mean, like you say, you give yourself a really good chance of kind of getting that 20-30 point mark just on bonus cards alone. But equally, just by drawing a huge number of bonus cards through these birds, you give yourself a really good chance of finding ecologist, oologist, ethologist, these really strong kind of guaranteed 4 or 6 points that you look for in bonus cards. So certainly feels like it could well pay off here for Midlife, and they are indeed going to get their free egg that they have so desperately been waiting for. It does look like Dozi is maybe considering on the Harrier. As we said, it's always kind of that they're going to have to think carefully about whether they choose to use it or if they choose to skip it. They do indeed use it, and with that success, Midlife is going to very gratefully grab up the free food they get from that. So yeah, this is working out, I think, pretty well for Midlife, but they are certainly up against it, I think, with this very nice grasslands that Dozi's managing to get set up.
Yeah, and with that free egg, we have like at least 3 options. What would you go for? I think we have the spotted owl, the king rail, and the warbler, and barn owl as well. So even more options. Grebe, obviously. What do you think?
Lots of options. I think for me in this position, I'm probably going to look to get that warbler down. You know, if I've picked it up, I think you want to get that kind of card cycle when you're going for food. I think trying to sort of read Midlife's mind as best I can. It does seem like that's what they were thinking. That's what they were hoping to try and get down for earlier. So, yeah, it does indeed look like that is the plan. And yeah, I think from there it is just going to be a case of try and get these big point birds down. So like you say, they've still got this spotted owl. That's going to be really good for the bonus card, and it's going to give another one. They've still got this king rail, which is again going to give a bonus card. Potentially comes into play as well with that next end of round goal. So certainly got some good options, and I think that is for me going to be where I think the points are going to come from here for Midlife.
Yeah, and White Rot will help them maybe not win yet.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's a tricky one because your only cavity nests that the Goldeneye can lay eggs into are in your habitat with the most birds. So I think ideally, obviously, they'd use that whitethroat to fill up that forest, but then you take away most of your cavity nest spaces that you know are going to help you for the end of round. And again, now with this Coltic going down, I think that is Dozi's kind of way of signalling, you know, you're not going to get away with this end of round goal without trying. I'm going to make this hard for you. So yeah, I think definitely Midlife is going to have to think a little bit carefully here about what the plan is. I think you probably lay eggs here and make sure that you do win the end of round, because I think if you lay eggs into either the Vireo or the Vulture, then you can get the free egg from the Goldeneye. That's going to go on the other one, and then you use the whitethroat to fill up the Goldeneye itself, and then you get to your 3. That is, I think, how I would play it to try and win the end of round. But it seems like maybe Midlife is kind of content with just taking the tie here, making sure you get to those 2, and really set up yourself nicely with some extra foods. And I can't really blame them for that.
Well, I would go the other way around, so I fill up the Goldeneye and just whitethroat the forest. So you will still have 3 cavity nest filled, and the opponent only have 2.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that works. I think it would work out the same. You know, if they are going to fill up the forest with that whitethroat, obviously they would have to decline the free egg from the Goldeneye, because as soon as you lay on either the Vireo or the Vulture, you can't use that whitethroat power on the forest. So I think they probably are just going to take that free egg when the Goldeneye activates, and then use the whitethroat to fill up those 2 eggs in the wetlands. And like we said, it's not bad. I think getting 2 free eggs, I think you take that, and then they can really kind of look to build up these habitats into round 3 and really try and target getting 4 eggs around, or even 5 eggs around in these last 2. I think that's for me where the strength of this whitethroat comes in.
Oh yeah, and time comes for counting, so
yes.
grubs and eggs.
Absolutely. So another free food here again for Midlife. I think even with this forest being built up, I think that's very welcome. You know, they've got some pretty food intensive birds in their hand, and certainly if their kind of strategy here is all going to be about the playing the birds and going for the bonus cards, they're going to need all the food they can get. So yeah, this is the kind of key decision point here for Midlife. Do you take the free egg and then use the whitethroat on the wetlands, or do you decline it and fill up the forest? I think this is probably how I would do it. It saves you more space in the cavity nests, and I think you certainly are going to expect that your opponent will lay eggs more next round. But I'm going to shut up, because last time I talked over the honey buzzard and it failed. So, oh my god.
Wow. I believe that the chance of the buzzard not to have any grabs is around 4%, so they roll it twice in a row.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It's very unfortunate. And particularly these early rounds, you know, if the buzzard misses in the final round when you don't need the food, whatever, you know, it doesn't matter. is kind of by the by. But when it happens twice in a row in rounds 1 and 2, when you get most value out of those worms, that is definitely frustrating. So I feel for Dozy, but yeah, I think they can still, they still got enough food, right? They've got a good amount of food. That Falcon is a good pickup there for the bonus cards, large bird specialist. So yeah, I think they still got enough to work with. They've got some good birds. They can look to get those down, and obviously this fish crow is still going to help get them the extra food that they need.
Yeah, for sure. But they discarded the thrush, and I think that's still a nice birds, considering the food that you have in your supply and in the feeder, right? Because you can just grab the cherry and play it, and it's like, even though it's like 5 net points, it contributes to end of round 3, end of round 4. Obviously, you can grab more food to play more birds.
Yeah,
I think it's whatever at that point, since they have a lot of options, but maybe there were some worse birds.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't always play the thrush here, but I think I would certainly keep it. I think you look at Dozy's hand; they still got this mallard in their hand, and you think, you're in round 3, you've already got pretty decent card access. Are you really going to play a mallard for 0 points? Probably not. I think I'm certainly more likely to play a 7-point thrush that has a star nest, especially, maybe this warbler's going to go down, that's going to give you another bonus card, and maybe that star nest is what you need to meet that bonus card. So yeah, certainly I think even if you're not intending on playing it right away, it would certainly make sense to try and keep it there. But yeah, we've got good points in the chat about what is available in the trade. This Goshawk, I do wonder, is Midlife going to grab it? And they are indeed. So yeah, you play this Spotted Owl and this Northern Goshawk. They're both 5 points. Obviously that Goshawk gets you a couple of tucks as well. And you filled up your forest. You've maxed out your forest of bonus cards. You give yourself lots of options, I think, for this Whitethroat. So yeah, that feels like a good pickup. And then really it is just about what else you can get from the deck. I think the Oyster Catch as well could be a nice play here for Midlife. So yeah, real kind of interesting how this game is developing in this round 3.
And again, I don't like the discard. I think King Rail is better than the Oyster Catcher. So for end of round 3, obviously, eggs on the ground nests. I mean, the King Rail is great for that. Obviously, you're looking at the extra bonus card, which helps. I mean, again, I believe if they have their plan, it's all right.
Yeah, if I'm trying to get inside Midlife's head here and work out what their plan is, I think they're probably thinking about Enclosure Builder. So at the moment they've got those 2 birds down that meet it, and then if they play the Oyster Catcher and then that Grebe as well, that's going to get them up to that 4-bird threshold. But yeah, it is always risky getting rid of the King Rail. I think especially there's plenty of turds left. You could play it, and even if you don't quite meet the bonus card, you've still got time to draw bird cards or continue cycling with this warbler to try and find some extra birds. So yeah, I think that was a difficult decision, but certainly, like you say, if they've kind of got this plan and they've worked out what the approach is with the remaining birds, then I think they can still look to make it work.
Yeah, so for that, I think you have to play the Grebe first and then draw a little bit more.
Yeah, I think
So
either
Goshawk.
play the Grebe and draw cards, or play the Oyster Catcher and just pick those 2 birds, and then if they're good birds, you look to get the food and play them. If they're not, it's still something to tuck under the warbler. So I think that's probably what Midlife is trying to think about here. And what's the priority? Do I play the owl? Obviously, they do have enough eggs maybe to play a forest bird and a wetland bird, but yeah, I don't mind this. I think get the Oyster Catcher down feels sensible. Just gives yourself sight of those cards that 1 turn sooner, and yeah, maybe you get something better than Spotted Owl. Maybe you get an even bigger point bird or something else that you could look to play. So here we go. What is it going to be? Not necessarily the best options. Maybe the Wilson Snipe, just purely because it's cheap and it does hit the Enclosure Builder. But yeah, I think certainly I'd be looking to just take whatever I can get, and it's probably going to get tucked under that Warbler.
Meaning the Goshawk, right? Yeah, sure.
Well, yes, yeah. I think both. I think when you're either, they're going to draw cards, so they can start cycling a little bit through the Warbler, or when they're getting food, I should say. But yes, ultimately, I think, if they keep cycling and maybe don't find birds they want, absolutely that Goshawk, I think, is the plan to get that down. Maybe this round for the end of round goal, but certainly at some point during the game, just for the points, and then obviously the Forester bonus card as well. So, I don't think either of those two birds really are what Midlife is going to be looking to play here.
Yeah, still think that with that setup, I would go for looking at as much bonus cards as possible. So maybe played Spotted Owl after that Warbler and then tuck whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Goshawk definitely change of plans, helping with that forest.
Yeah, I think exactly. Yeah, I think now they've kind of done what they've done, and they've got obviously some good birds and some not so good birds. I think certainly it is just going to be a case of trying to work out the right sequence of doing things. I think this is where having a white throat, and especially I think having the golden eye alongside it makes things a little bit more tricky, because you've got to work out where are your eggs going to go. You don't want to, as we saw previously, have that golden eye blocking the white throat from being able to activate. But Wetland Scientist, pretty good pickup there, I think. You're probably looking to play either the Grebe or the Snipe in that Wetlands for that fourth bird. So you get the 3 points there, and be quite happy with that, I think.
And what do you like more at this point in game? So Grebe or Snipe?
Oh, it's a tricky one. I think probably Grebe, because you can lay eggs on it from the GoldenEye if necessary. Because at the moment, there's only 4 cavity nest spaces, and they're all in the forest, and that is the best habitat for using the whitethroat. And so, you find yourself in a position of, I'm either declining eggs from the pink power in order to maximize my teal power, or I'm taking the eggs from the pink power and then potentially missing out on really maximizing and getting what I could have done from the teal. So it's a tricky one. But yeah, I think for me, I go for the Grebe purely because it has that star nest and it can just help out a little bit more.
Yeah, I would go for Grebe as well, since we have no grubs in our supply right now, but still we're taking the food action, so we'll have the grub. But again, we don't have that many eggs, so I think it almost doesn't matter, because we will have like the habitat with 4 birds to fill the eggs. So
I think what Midlife is hoping for and what they're planning is, if I can get another free egg from the GoldenEye this turn, then they can look to play the Grebe because I have those 2 eggs, and then they've got 2 habitats with 4 eggs, and that just gives them that extra flexibility. We've got 2 end of rounds left. Maybe you fill one of them on one end of round and then the other one the next, depending on how many egg spaces you clear out. But yeah, I think this is going to be really kind of quite pivotal for them, because if maybe Dozi doesn't look to lay eggs, I think they've got enough birds. I think particularly the Warbler, they might be looking to play, or the Screech Owl for the bonus card. I think they've got enough birds and enough food to maybe focus on playing birds instead, and really just kind of slow down what Midlife is trying to get built up here.
Okay, what's stacked here? Let's see.
Yeah,
tough decision, it seems.
It is, and I was just thinking, do you go Goshawk or Grosbeak? And in reality, the Grosbeak might actually be better here, because it is obviously 1 extra point on its own. I know you lose out on those tuck cards, but I think for Midlife, cards are more precious than food right now. So Midlife has loads and loads of food. They don't want to be spending really that extra turn drawing cards just so they can look to get those tucks onto the Goshawk. So I don't mind that at all, and I definitely don't mind that Greylag Goose pickup when you look ahead
Yeah.
to that final end of rounds, that could certainly come into play there. So yeah, that would be interesting to see. And it does look like Dozi is going to play a bird. So Midlife is going to have to try and work out here. Do they just take the hit and just lay some eggs, or are they kind of really going to just try and be patient and either get something from the golden eye, or obviously that white throat at round end?
Yeah, and speaking about the pickup, I think Greylag Goose is really great for them.
Yeah.
So you have so much food, and Greylag Goose will go into wetlands, I believe, over the grip,
Yes.
and you'll still have flexibility with 4 birds in forest and wetlands to play eggs with white throat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a little bit more points, so that's nice.
Exactly, it's more points, and actually it hits the same bonus card, so it's still going to hit Enclosure Builder, it's still going to hit Wetland Scientist, and yeah, it's a couple more points. Obviously, it's more food, but like I was saying with the Grosbeak versus the Goshawk, food isn't a problem for Midlife right now. They've got so much food, they're going to probably keep drawing food. Looks like again this turn as well. So yeah, I don't see any problem in getting these birds down. And yeah, I mean, if that Greylag Goose, if that makes a difference in that final end of round goal, that's going to be worth extra points as well. So yeah, I definitely like that pickup there.
Yeah, that was a great pickup. They go big on wheat, so I think they want to play that. So and what do you attack here? Let's see.
I mean, they've only got 2 wetland spots, right? They've got 2 wetland spots and 3 birds, so you can't play them all. Certainly one of them is going to go, and I think the snipe is the weaker of the ones available. But that's interesting. They've gone for the quail, so I wonder, are they just going to put that in the grasslands if they need to pivot, or is that going to be a forest play as a way to make sure they can get some eggs, so they don't have to keep maybe waiting on this golden eye or having to lay eggs themselves? But I can't. Surely you're not going to put it in the forest and block your forester bonus cards. That would seem like an odd move at this stage.
Well, I don't know. I think it's just a pickup for a pickup purpose. I don't see the plan here, the obvious one at least.
Yeah.
With the quail. So maybe they picked up a bit to play it actually, but who knows? I guess we will see with that.
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't think it's something necessarily that that fits here. I mean, it does hit Enclosure Builder, so maybe if they're thinking about maxing that out versus maxing out the Forester and kind of the pros and cons of each of those, and obviously the additional eggs and the additional points that quail is going to bring, maybe it's going to work. These are going to be the kind of things that you think about. I think certainly, when you go into that final round and you only have 5 turns left, you've really got to think carefully about what you're going to do with each of those, because you don't want to be wasting turns. You don't want to be doing something too inefficient at the end there. But there you go. They get the free egg, and that probably
and it was an unlucky hunt from the Harrier. I mean, unlucky for Dozi, obviously. But yeah. Counting time, I guess.
Yes.
Soon.
Yeah, and I think for Midlife, it's going to be a case of, do I play that 5th Forest Bird now because I've got the 2 eggs there, and then that gets me a free one, or an extra one, I should say, from the Whitethroat, because I'm assuming if you play that extra Forest Bird, you're going to use the Whitethroat in the forest and get all those eggs. That feels like a nice option to go for at least. This will be, like you say, this is where the counting comes in. Is it worth playing the Quail? Is it worth playing the Grosbeak? Or do I play something in the wetlands and just take the extra points? Maybe get the Star Nest down. Am I going to play the Greylag Goose? So many options. Almost kind of overwhelming number of options. So we'll see what they go for. But yeah, I'm kind of conscious we talked so much about Midlife. I think they've had more of the interesting decisions to make. I think what Dozi's been doing. Obviously, we can't quite see their board at the moment, but they have just been going for that. Wetlands or grasslands, I should say. They got the fish crow down, which is very nice, and really it's just been about laying eggs, getting the food they need. I'm kind of curious what the other plays are going to be. I think maybe the Warbler for an extra bonus card could be an option, but otherwise it probably is just going to be looking to lay eggs and hopefully get some hunting points. certainly with that Falconer and that Harrier.
Yeah, I think it's the classic grassland setup.
Yeah.
Not the most OP one, but it works. I think
Yeah.
it's around 5.5 points each time they lay eggs, and they still have they can have extra eggs from Cuckoo once
Exactly.
their opponent decided to lay eggs, but I guess never happened.
Yeah. I mean, when the Cuckoo went down, I did think that's quite an interesting play. I think it's a bit of an insurance, right? It's kind of puts your opponent off going for that late Grasslands pivot. Oh, so I hope Midlife's not rage quitting. But it's a case of, okay, you might want to set up that Grasslands, but if you're going to lay eggs, I'm going to get 3-1 every time. And certainly, with that yellow throat, the 4 egg spaces, I don't think Dozi is short of egg space at all there. So, certainly feels a bit more like a kind of insurance, protects yourself against the potential for that late Grassland pivot.
Yep. Seems like we encountered the timer bug.
Potentially. Well, I think because they got the free egg, I think Midlife, I don't know if they already took the free egg or what happened, but it should be on their turn. It does indeed look like it is. So, as I said, it's going to just be about deciding what to do. Looks like it is the Grey Lag Goose that is going to be played. I suppose they have to think a little bit about this end of round gold. They need to make sure it's going to be that forest that they're going to need to lay eggs in, so they at least have one egg in the platform nest. So I think it's probably going to be a case of play a bird straight away in this next round. I think the white throat just crashed their game, so hopefully that's not going to be a recurring problem. But yeah, I think they need to clear out some of those egg spaces because they've only got 4 cavity nest spaces in the forest, and if you're going to fill up 3 of them with this white throat power, you don't really leave yourself much extra margin for using that golden eye in the next round. But hopefully it works. Is it going to work? Good. There we go. So Midlife does get that 1 egg they need in the platform nest. Dozi takes the end of round, and we go into the final round. And the Snowy Owl could be an interesting one here. The Midlife certainly hits the enclosure builder as well if they are, maybe close to maxing that out if they can get some extra birds down. But certainly I think they just need to think about, again, try and min-max this. What's going to get me the most points? Do I need the eggs from the quail? Do I need the extra food? What do I look to play? These are kind of all the questions that are going to be going on in their mind.
So to max out the nest type, they have to play quail. And they're playing it, I guess. Quail and take the owl and then play it. That's really interesting.
I'm curious. If you're set on playing that owl, which I think if you're going quail here and you're only 1 away from maxing out enclosure builder, then certainly you should be looking to get that owl. But I don't understand why you'd play the quail before grabbing the owl, because I think it's unlikely that Dozi's going to take cards here, but you don't know if you're in Midlife's position. Maybe they don't have good birds and they do need to grab something, and you kind of leave that risk of them taking it out.
Sorry to interrupt, but I guess we are forgetting the grip, because the grip also helps with the enclosure.
Yes, yeah. Well, but do you play the grebe over the owl? Like, that's what I'm wondering, because obviously the grebe, it's an extra point, but you cost 1 more egg to play it, so they come out the same. And then the Snowy Owl, it gets you a bonus card, and then it gets you an extra card or an extra egg, depending on what you want. So, I think Snowy Owl is the better play here. I think Midlife should be looking to pick this up. Playing quail in the grasses to me kind of says I'm just going to go and spam eggs at the end. But I think, like we said, with this Cuckoo that Dozi's played, that just makes that really, really difficult to work.
Yeah, and maybe to pick that owl, I guess we can draw food first and stack our grip.
Yes.
But yeah, I think there are options.
Yeah, certainly. And Midlife is thinking long and hard about this.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, here we go.
There is a lot to think about.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like I said, the last 5 turns so crucial, and I think when you get that fresh tray, the start of the round, particularly when you're going first in round 4, that's when you do your calculating. That's when you come up with your plan. You think, right, how am I going to negotiate this final round? What are my 5 turns going to be, and in what order? And so you can work out exactly what you're going to do. That's kind of so crucial, and certainly, yeah, this is the time for Midlife to do that. It seems a little bit of indecision. They kind of got halfway to playing the quail and then went back, and then they got halfway to taking food and they went back. So I hope they can kind of make a decision that they're happy with and that they're comfortable with, and go through with it. So does maybe seem like it is going to be food, and they have indeed committed. So hopefully they pick up the Snowy Owl. That is certainly the pick of the birds in the tray, and they do indeed. So yeah, they're just going to be gambling and seeing what they can get on the bonus card.
They have already 3 cards, I believe, right? Yeah, so the first one, what can bring them a lot of points? Passerine? Or maybe just a Rodontologist for 4 points.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
What else? So they have like the big birds. I mean, their opponent have the big birds, so it doesn't work for them. What else?
I mean, something like, ecologist, ethologist, anything like that that's going to get you 4 or 6 points. I'm assuming there's going to be another, the Snowy Owl is certainly going to be that next grassland play, but maybe the quail as well, if they need to meet ecologist, but we'll see. Okay.
Oh yeah. I was
Backyard
thinking about
birder.
the backyard birder and Seth's Passerine. Yeah, so backyard
okay.
birder works.
Yeah. I think that's okay. 3 points. Again, we've said it 100 times in this stream alone, but you take that. I think if you can grab 3 points, especially from these kind of bonus card birds in the expansion that only give you 1 bonus card to look at, certainly you take the 3 points and you run with it, because it's a pretty solid return to get.
Yeah, for sure. So their next few turns would be just play quail and the grosbeak, and then what? Lay eggs, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've got enough eggs to do that. They have got the 4 birds, obviously, and the wetlands, and I think even if they lay eggs for a few times, maybe once or twice, they've still got space to do that. So I think they should be okay there. But this is interesting from Dozy. So I did kind of say, maybe Dozy's not happy with the cards they've got. Maybe they're going to have to draw birds again, and they have indeed gone for birds. So I think this is a bit of a gamble, to be honest. I think the safer play certainly would have been to just lay eggs. I mean, like you said at the start of the round, it's not the best grasslands, but it's pretty decent. It scores quite a few points there. They do have to be conscious of the golden eye, but they're still getting points from that. And I'm not really sure the birds they picked up are necessarily too strong, unless they can get to the next tier of large bird specialists, but I think they might be a way off that.
I believe they picked up Behaviorist, so they are planning to play that Kingfisher.
Okay. That would make sense. Yes, because if that's going to be an extra 3 points, and help them get towards that, and maybe is the Kingfisher a large bird as well? Oh no, I don't think it is. But it's still another bird for the end of round, so they might have a chance. I don't know. I think they might still be behind, particularly after this quail has gone down for Midlife here, and I'm imagining this grosbeak as well, just for the Forester. Surely you have to play that. I think it's probably going to be uncatchable, this end of round goal for Dozy, but yeah, the Kingfisher is still a good play, like you say, with the Behaviorist. You get a few extra points, so very, very welcome indeed.
Yep. And this game, both players don't have that many eggs. Obviously, White Rod will help with that. And I think for the other players, you just lay eggs. Yourself. So I think the scores wouldn't be necessarily that high, but we will see. And I guess this game can go both ways. I don't see the obvious winner here.
Yeah, I was about to ask, and we've got some people in the chat kind of trying to speculate over who wins this. It's really tricky. I think it has been a case of bonus cards. Again, for Midlife scoring pretty well. whereas for Dozi, maybe not scoring as well. I think Dozi's had that more traditional grasses setup, like we said, with the kind of the brown powers in there to score points, and obviously the fish crits help with a bit of food as well. But it's been very clean, I think, for Midlife. The Golden certainly has helped. Just generally, the point scoring has been a bit low. Obviously, they spent a lot of turns gaining food and just getting that single point tucking on the Warbler. So it's been a bit low from that perspective, but certainly this Whitethroat, kind of like we said at the start of the game, if you're able to get somewhere between 2 and 4 eggs throughout the rounds to get those free eggs, very, very nice indeed. So if I had to call it one way or the other, I would probably call it for Midlife at this point. But I think you're right, it is certainly going to be really, really close, I feel. And it's going to be interesting to see who...
I think bonus cards will decide.
Yeah, that feels like the factor to me. Is just these bonus cards, right. Dozi's got 3 from the large birds and 3 from behaviorists, only 6 points. I think Midlife's on about 2 to 3 times that much from their own bonus cards. So, that combined with some of this end of round advantage, I think particularly this last round, the goose maybe didn't come into play, but it has helped Midlife with the end of round, which they do manage to win. So there we go. It is a tie overall between the 4 end of round goals, and we go into the scores. So yeah, this is a tricky one. I think this is going to be quite a close one. So there we go. Midlife takes a little bit of a lead, and obviously the bonus cards as well. Oh wow, that is a huge difference on bonus card points. I didn't quite expect it to be that much. And yeah, I think the writing does seem to be on the wall a bit there for Dozi. A few tuck cards, but in the end, not enough. So there we go. Congratulations to Midlife, who takes the series in 2 games, and that last game 95-75. And yeah, really, really good game again. Some very interesting approaches, and certainly the use of that Whitethroat. We said at the start we wanted to see a good demonstration of how the Whitethroat works, and yeah, I don't know about you, but I think we got that here from Midlife.
For sure, and some teal power mass. So total 4 grubs and 12 eggs from teal power.
Absolutely.
So I think that makes the difference here. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I said, good game indeed from 2 players, and I'll briefly bring back in Midlife first of all, if you're available to talk. So yeah, congratulations. Obviously always good to win a series like that in 2 games, and yeah, some interesting use of the European expansion birds, particularly that Whitethroat in game 2. So just talk us through how you felt those 2 games went.
Yeah, I mean, the second game I wasn't super crazy about my starting hand, but figured I could make it work, and yeah, the teal powers definitely helped. Got some lucky cards to make all the bonuses happen. Yeah, but it's a shame. It seemed like Dozi didn't get very good draws that second game there.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it did seem to be all about those bonus cards. I think at one point you had the King Rail as well, and we were thinking, oh, is he going to play the King Rail as well and really kind of go and just max out and try and get all these bonus cards? But I mean, you scored a huge number of points from the ones that you did get. So yeah, certainly managed that well. And yeah, like you said, I think the teal powers and the pink power as well. The golden eye was really strong, and plenty of free food as well from that black vulture helped along the way as well. So yeah, Dozi, if you are there as well, might just quickly come to you. So commiserations, but yeah, some maybe a little bit unlucky on the draw there. The bonus cards didn't quite work out either in that second game. So yeah, just kind of your thoughts on how that went for you.
Yeah, I thought my starting hand was way better than the first game. I was excited, but then I made a mistake to not take the Black Vulture. And yeah, because I think Midlife already knew I was gonna take the Northern Harrier.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a mistake, and then I feel like it was very unlucky. I mean, Honey Buzzard wasn't hitting in 2 rounds, and I was like, oh. And then the rest of the cards, I think I should have played better, but there weren't any big cards I could have played there, and yeah.
Yeah, I forgot completely about the honey buzzard, but that was painful to watch. I think we were saying those first 2 rounds 1 and 2, when you get that honey buzzard activating, that's when it really counts. That's when you really need that extra food. And just really, really unfortunate there, not going your way. But yeah, I mean, like you said, the starting hand was really strong. But I think these games happen. I think we all have those where you feel like you get a really good start, and then from there, nothing comes together, and kind of the luck doesn't fall your way. But unfortunately,
that's the way I felt the game was going.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is how
but
Wingspan goes sometimes.
Midlife, I think it was well deserved.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dozi. It was great playing against you.
Yeah, and it was a real good 2-game series to watch. Some good gameplay and strategy on display. So yeah, I think we'll look to wrap this one up here now. So thanks again to both players for streaming. Obviously, we can't do this without you, so much appreciated. And yeah, thanks again to Alex for joining me on this game too. Hopefully you enjoyed watching that one as much as I did.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Do stay tuned. We'll have some more streams from this tournament coming in the near future. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again on the next live stream.